Hey, you. Ever glance at those stunning Singapore cityscapes online and wonder, could that actually be my office view?
Yeah. Maybe picturing yourself working from there, laptop out, amazing food, just like steps away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If Singapore's popped into your head as a potential digital nomad spot, well, you're definitely in the right place for this deep dive.
Absolutely. Singapore often comes up, great infrastructure, big business hub, makes sense.
But we want to go beyond just the shiny surface,
Mm.
right? Dig into what it's really like, the good, the bad, the practical stuff for a nomad.
For sure. And for this, we're drawing on insights from moveandstay.com.
Ah, right. They've been helping expats and business travelers in Asia find places, figure things out. For how long is it?
Over 25 years. So they have this like really deep practical perspective on living and working in the region. They've seen how things have changed.
Okay, so think of them as our guide on the ground, giving us the real scoop.
That's the plan. Our mission here is to use that experience from moveandstay.com to pull out the essential info you need. We're talking living costs, visas, workspaces, culture.
All to help figure out, is Singapore the right fit for your remote work life?
Exactly.
Okay, let's jump in then. So day-to-day life,
Right.
what's the vibe for a digital nomad landing there based on what moveandstay.com sees?
Well, their perspective, coming from helping so many people relocate, it really paints Singapore as, well, pretty smooth, actually. Modern, super efficient, and very safe.
Yeah, safety's a big one.
Huge, especially when you're new somewhere. Those basics, efficiency, safety, they just cut down on the stress. Lets you focus on work and settling in.
Totally. I mean, just thinking about Changi Airport, the MRT,
Yeah.
it just feels convenient. That's got to be a major plus when you're juggling work and like finding your way around.
Definitely. And it is a big business hub, so there's that underlying energy potential for networking too.
Right.
That's a key point. MoveAndStay.com often makes the business environment. But, and this is crucial, they're also very upfront about the cost of living.
Ah, yes, the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Their guides for expats always tackle this. Accommodation especially can be a significant bite out of the budget. They don't sugarcoat that.
So it's that classic trade-off, isn't it? You pay a premium for that smooth operation, that quality of life.
Pretty much. But what you're getting, according to moveandstay.com, is access to really world-class amenities. Infrastructure, healthcare, that incredible food scene.
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
And the culture must be fascinating.
Oh, definitely. Moveandstay.com highlights this too. Singapore is this amazing mix, Chinese, Malay, Indian, Eurasian influences. It creates this really unique cultural blend.
Sounds like you'd never run out of things to discover. How does Move and Stay see that affecting daily life for someone new?
Well, it shows up everywhere. The food, obviously, the festivals, the languages you hear. English is widely spoken, which helps a lot.
Big help, yeah.
But understanding a few local customs, a bit of etiquette. MoveAndStay.com says that really helps you connect and navigate things more smoothly, makes the experience richer.
Makes sense. Got any specific examples?
Hmm.
Little things moveandstay.com flags for newcomers.
Sure. Based on helping people settle in, they often mention things like being mindful of personal space on public transport. It tends to be pretty orderly.
Okay.
Tipping isn't really customary service charge is usually included. And if you visit temples or mosques, definitely dress modestly. Basic respect stuff.
Good practical tips. Anything else that might catch someone off guard?
Maybe the rules around eating or drinking on public transport, generally a no-no. And yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty strict about littering. Even chewing gum used to be famously restricted, though that's eased up a bit.
Wow, okay.
So the overall advice from moveandstay.com, drawing on all that experience, do a little cultural homework beforehand. It just makes for a smoother, more respectful landing.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Show you've made an effort. Okay, let's circle back to that cost of living. Moveandstay.com must break down the numbers, right? Give people a realistic picture.
Oh, absolutely. Their resources often provide estimated monthly costs in Singapore dollars, SGD. For accommodation, they usually suggest a range, maybe starting around 1,500 SGD for like a room share, going up to 4,000 SGD, or even more for a private apartment in a central spot.
Whoa, that's quite a range. Location and type really matter, huh?
Hugely. That's the biggest variable. Food's next. They might estimate somewhere between, say, 800 and 1,500 SGD a month.
Depends if you're hitting fancy restaurants or the hawker centers, I guess.
Exactly. Moveandstay.com points that out. Eating out constantly bumps it up. Cooking at home, exploring those local markets,
Yeah.
that brings it down significantly.
Plus, exploring markets is fun anyway. Win-win.
Totally. Transport. Pretty reasonable, thanks to the great public system. Maybe 100 to 200 SGD a month. Utilities, electricity, water, internet, perhaps 100 to 300 SGD. And then, miscellaneous stuff. Entertainment, personal things, budget, maybe another 300 to 500 SGD. Could be more, depending on your lifestyle.
So yeah, definitely not Southeast Asia budget backpacking territory.
Not at all. But moveandstay.com, with their long experience, they always offer tips for making it work.
Like what? Any common strategies they suggest?
Well, considering housing just outside the absolute center is a big one. Rents drop off a bit, cooking at home, like we said, and really taking advantage of Singapore's free stuff. The parks, the gardens, free museum days.
Good point. There are loads of green spaces.
Tons. They also suggest looking out for deals on local apps, things for food, activities. MoveAndStay.com often points people towards resources like that. Fave, Eatigo sometimes get mentioned.
Ah, local knowledge.
Yeah.
Handy.
Yeah, and they usually mention services like Wise or Revolut for managing international payments easily. It just simplifies things.
Okay, got it. So living situation, costs, sorted. Now, the really crucial bit for nomads, visas and legal stuff. What's the deal in Singapore?
Right. This is where MoveStudio.com provides really clear, practical info. And the headline is, Singapore doesn't currently have a specific digital nomad visa.
Okay, that's major. Good to know up front. So how do nomads legally stay and work remotely? What does Move and Stay say?
The most common route, especially initially, is just the standard tourist visa or short stay pass. Depending on your passport, you can usually get 30 to 90 days on arrival.
Simple enough for short stays.
Yes, and moveandstay.com stresses this constantly in their advice. There's a huge condition. Any work you do while on that tourist pass must be for a company or clients based outside Singapore.
Ah, okay. So if your income is 100% foreign, a tourist visa might work for a bit.
Exactly, for shorter stints, yeah. They also mention the entree pass.
How's that one?
It's for people wanting to start a proper business in Singapore. But moveandstay.com points out the requirements are pretty strict innovative ideas, funding. It's not really aimed at the typical freelancer or remote employee nomad.
Gotcha. Not for most of us, then. What about those employment passes, S-passes?
Yeah, moveandstay.com clarifies those too. Those are for when you're actually hired by a Singaporean company. They sponsor you. So again, generally not relevant if you're working remotely for your company back home or for various overseas clients.
Okay, so tourist visa seems the most likely path for many. Just need to be super careful about only working for overseas entities. What about other legal things, like tax? What does Move and Stay flag?
Well, drawing on their experience with longer-term expats, they always highlight tax residency, specifically the 183-day rule.
Ah, the magic number.
Exactly. If you stay more than 183 days in a calendar year, you could be considered a tax resident. And that might mean owing Singapore income tax, potentially on income earned while you're in Singapore, even if it's from overseas. It gets complicated.
Yikes. So even a long tourist stay could trigger that.
Potentially. MoveAndStay.com strong advice. Talk to a tax advisor who knows Singaporean law. Get personalized advice. Don't guess.
Sound advice.
And they just reiterate the work rules. Working for Singapore clients needs a proper work visa, period. Don't try to skirt that on a tourist pass.
Right. And data privacy. Anything Move and Stay mentions there. We handle a lot of data these days.
They do briefly touch on the PDPA, the Personal Data Protection Act. If your work involves handling personal data of people in Singapore, you need to be aware of those rules. Again, complex area, might need legal advice if it's core to your work.
Okay, so the big takeaway from moveandstay.com here is do your homework, get professional advice on tax and legal, play by the rules.
Pretty much. It avoids major headaches down the line.
Totally. Okay, moving on to happier thoughts. Finding a place to actually, work. Singapore's so modern, must have decent options.
Oh, tons. MoveAndStay.com definitely highlights the variety. You've got everything from slick co-working spaces to cozy cafes to even libraries, something for most styles and budgets.
Let's start with co-working. Any specific places moveandstay.com often points to?
Yeah, they often mention names like the Working Capital, known for cool design, good community vibe events. WeWork, of course, they're everywhere, very flexible. The Hive often comes up for creative types, nice spaces. And Justco is frequently mentioned as a slightly more budget-friendly option with still good amenities.
Co-working spaces are great for that structure and meeting people too, right?
Exactly. MoveAndStay.com really emphasizes that networking aspect. Lots of these places host workshops, social mixers. Great way to connect.
Okay, cool. But what if you want something more casual? A cafe vibe.
Singapore's cafe scene is booming, and many are pretty work-friendly, good Wi-Fi, power outlets. Based on their local intel, Move and Stay might suggest spots like Sweely Clark Quay, more relaxed, or
Mm,
Monk's Brew Club for really good coffee, maybe quieter.
nice.
They might even mention places slightly outside the center, like Wall Collective in Punggol if people are exploring different neighborhoods. There are lists online too, of
But
course.
good to have options for mixing it up. What about super budget friendly or even free?
MoveAndStay.com often points to the public libraries. The National Library is amazing, free Wi-Fi, loads of space. Can get busy though, and finding a power outlet isn't always guaranteed.
Okay, worth note.
For somewhere scenic, maybe Gardens by the Bay for some outdoor work.
Hmm.
Obviously weather dependent and power's an issue. And some community centers offer quiet, cheap spaces, though maybe basic amenities.
So yeah, a real mix depending on what you need that day. Okay, we touched on costs. Let's dig into managing money there. Currency first, anything key.
Singapore dollar, SGD, that's the
Wow.
main thing. MoveAndStay.com always says, get a good currency converter app on your phone, get familiar with the exchange rate against your home currency, crucial for budgeting.
Definitely. Avoid that sticker shock later. What about banks? Should nomads open a local account? What's Move and Stay's take?
For longer stays, yeah, MoveAndStay.com often suggests it can make life easier, paying rent, local bills, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But for shorter trips, or if you want flexibility, they usually recommend those international money services. Wise, Revolut are common ones they mention, often better exchange rates, lower fees than traditional banks for transfers.
And they're popular.
Just, check for any hidden fees, always read the fine print,
Yeah.
but generally, very convenient.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Any other big budgeting strategies? Move and Stay hammers home, based on their experience in Asia.
Oh, yeah. Tracking expenses is number one. Use an app, a spreadsheet, whatever works. Just know where your money's going.
Crucial anywhere, but especially in pricier places.
Totally. Cooking at home, using local markets, they mention that constantly as a huge money saver. And really lean into the free stuff. Parks, gardens, free museum days, community events.
Leverage those beautiful green spaces again.
Exactly. The overall message from Move and Stay is, yes, Singapore's expensive, but you can live reasonably if you plan and are mindful about your spending. It's doable.
And they usually give a rough breakdown to start people off.
Yeah, their guides often have a summary table, estimated monthly costs for accommodation, food, transport, entertainment, miscellaneous, just to give you a ballpark figure to work from.
Super helpful. Okay, so work's covered, money's managed. What about the social side? Connecting with people. Is Singapore good for networking, according to Move and Stay?
Surprisingly good is the feedback they often relay. They really encourage tapping into the existing nomad and expat communities. Joining Facebook groups is a top tip.
Which ones? Any specifics?
Groups like Singapore Digital Nomads, expats in Singapore, those kinds of names. Great places for tips, finding meetups, just feeling less alone.
Definitely. Those online groups can be lifesavers. What about meeting people in person?
Very active meetup scene. MoveAndStay.com might point to things like Startup Grind for business folks, Creative Mornings for creatives, plus all the events the co-working spaces run.
Lots going on.
Yeah. Their advice is basically put yourself out there, go to things that interest you, professional or hobby-wise, strike up conversations.
Don't be shy. What about more formal, professional networking?
LinkedIn, obviously, standard global tool, attending industry conferences if they happen while you're there. And Move and Stay often suggests just reaching out for coffee chats. Simple, but effective.
Good old coffee meeting.
Yeah. They even mention checking local job boards, not to find a job, but just to see who's active in your industry and maybe connect that way.
Clever. Okay, so plenty of ways to connect. But life isn't just work and networking. What about exploring Singapore itself? Taking a break.
Oh, Singapore offers so much beyond work. MoveAndStay.com always raves about exploring the different cultural neighborhoods, Chinatown, Little India, Kampong Glam.
Right, each with its own flavor.
Totally unique. Different food, shops, temples, history. They also recommend the big cultural spots, National Museum, Art Science Museum, the Esplanade theaters.
Lots to see and do. What about getting outdoors, escaping the city buzz a bit?
Singapore is amazing for that. Surprisingly green. Gardens by the Bay is a must-see, obviously. The super trees, the cloud forest.
Iconic.
Yeah. Then there's the Singapore Botanic Gardens UNESCO site. Beautiful, peaceful. MoveAndStay.com also often lists places like East Coast Park, great for cycling, picnics by the sea, Fort Canning Park for history and views, McRitchie Reservoir for proper hiking, the Treetop Walk.
Well, they really pack in the green spaces.
They really prioritize it. It's impressive.
And the food. We mentioned hawker centers, but any specific dishes move and stay flags as must-tries?
Oh, the list is endless. But yeah, the classics always come up. Chicken rice, gotta try it. Chili crab, messy but amazing. Laksa, that spicy noodle soup.
Making me hungry now.
Yeah, yeah. Move and Stay strongly pushes visiting the hawker centers. It's where you get authentic, delicious, affordable food. They often include a little price guide too, like hawker meal versus cafe lunch versus restaurant dinner, just to set expectations.
Hawker centers are essential Singapore.
Okay, we've covered loads. Any final key tips from moveandstay.com for making the whole digital nomad thing work well in Singapore?
Yeah, a few core things based on their experience helping people adjust. Number one, work-life balance. Really crucial to avoid burnout there.
How? Any specific advice?
Setting clear work hours, taking proper breaks, having a dedicated workspace if possible, even if it's just a corner, and actually scheduling leisure time, planning fun stuff.
Be intentional about switching off. Exactly. They also really encourage embracing the local culture. Go beyond the tourist trail. Learn a few basic phrases, Malay, Mandarin, Tamil, even Singlish. Be respectful of customs. It just makes the whole experience richer.
Good advice anywhere, really.
True. And finally, staying productive. Find a routine that works for you. Set daily goals. Use productivity tools or apps. They sometimes mention things like Trello or focus apps like Freedom or Forest. Ensure you have reliable internet. Experiment with different work spots.
Find your groove. Okay, let's wrap this up. Key takeaways. If Singapore's on someone's list, what's the essence based on moveandstay.com's perspective?
I'd say Singapore offers this really interesting mix. It's hypermodern, efficient, safe, great for business, but also culturally rich and vibrant. The cost is definitely a factor, a big one.
No getting around that.
No, but you get high quality of life, amazing connectivity, and loads to do. We've looked at the visa realities, no specific nomad visa, the tourist pass limitations. We've seen the workspace options, the money-saving tips, the networking potential.
So if someone's thinking seriously, what are the next steps Move and Stay would likely suggest?
Based on how they guide people. First, really dig into the visa requirements for your nationality and how long you plan to stay. Talk to immigration resources, maybe even an advisor.
Right.
And if you're genuinely keen, they'd probably suggest taking a short trip first. Go see it, feel it out. Does it match what you imagined? Visit some co-working spaces. Maybe try to connect with a few nomads already there through those Facebook groups.
Test the waters before diving in. Makes sense.
Yeah, get a real feel for it.
Okay. So considering all of that, the efficiency, the culture, the costs, the rules, the opportunities,
Yeah.
the big question for you listening is, what parts of Singapore really click with your idea of a great remote work adventure?
That's the question to ponder.
Absolutely. Thanks. This was a fantastic deep dive into the real picture of being a digital nomad in Singapore, really drawing on that moveandstay.com experience.